Ishiro Honda once said that the tragedy of monsters is the fact that they are born too tall, too strong, and too heavy. And at least in the context of the films, he was right. These attributes have led to Godzilla having many disagreements with the Japanese military. But at least in the context of pop culture, these attributes have led to the opposite for Godzilla. They've allowed him to prosper and produce 28 movies. But I want to analyze this and discover what it truly is about Godzilla that attracts people to him and why he's been so endearing. And the only way to truly do that successfully is to review every Godzilla movie ever made. Some people might be angry, but regardless, welcome to Zazubaar's Godzilla Palooza. Greetings, G-Graspers. I am Zazubaar, and welcome back to Godzilla Palooza. It's day 26, and today we're going to be taking a look at the technically first film in the Millennium series, though I consider it the second, since, you know, Godzilla 2000 was called Godzilla 2000 Millennium, and it was a different continuity, and it's the first fucking film in the Millennium series. The second film in the Millennium series, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus firmly establishes the Millennium series as what I like to call Godzilla anthology. Now, anthology is when you consider everything one series, but in reality, it's all not connected to each other and is all just under the same name, kind of like Tales from the Crypt. And the Millennium Godzilla series only has 2 films in it that are in continuity with each other. The only thing that all the films share is being a sequel to the original Gojira, except for Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is the most anthologiest of the anthology, and what I mean by that is, it is literally like a really kind of what-if Godzilla scenario. And I really like that idea of doing a bunch of Godzilla movies that are just kind of, what if this happened in the Godzilla universe? Not all of them are that extreme. Like, I don't think GMK is that extreme, even though it's brilliant. But this is kind of that extreme. It's kind of like, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is kind of like, what if the Oxygen Destroyer never existed? And what I mean by that is, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus has the fascinating premise of the original Godzilla 54 attack happening, and then that Godzilla is the Godzilla that we're following today. There was never more than one Godzilla, there was never a rebirth of Godzilla, he never ever died. There was no Oxygen Destroyer in 1954, he attacked Tokyo and then left, and then came back 12 years later to destroy a power plant, then he showed up 30 years later to destroy a city, and then he showed up again in, what would it be, 2001 I think the film says, when he attacks a city again. It's a very, very great idea and an interesting idea in that the whole point of this film seems to be Godzilla's impact on this universe and how different it is given these new qualities. The problem with Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is that it doesn't do this to great effect. The problem is that it quickly devolves into a bland Godzilla film, in that it very much so goes to roots of just a film with Godzilla versus plug-in monster here with an interesting development. Except Megaguirus' development is not that interesting. And overall, this is indeed one of the blandest Godzilla films I've ever seen. And the fact of the matter is that the premise is so interesting and so unique that it shouldn't be this way. This is the only Godzilla film in history to not be in continuity with the original. Well, except for, you know, 98, but that doesn't count. The only Japanese-made Godzilla film that is not in continuity with the original. And somehow, despite that unique premise and despite a unique Godzilla universe, it manages to be incredulously boring and bland. The biggest weak link in this film for me is Megaguirus himself, or itself. We don't get a gender. Megaguirus is potentially the most bland Godzilla monster in history. Unlike Space Godzilla, which, if I had to pick a review I've already done to represent my feelings for this film, I'd pick my Space Godzilla review. Because I think this film is kind of like the Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla of the Millennium series, in that it's really, really bland and just kind of doesn't fit in with the rest of it. Is that, unlike that film, though, which had an interesting monster for Godzilla to fight, Megaguirus is incredibly bland and is really just kind of a Batra-Mothra mixture, in that it does definitely have some unique elements about it, like the whole hive thing, but aside from that, he's just kind of a new version of Batra. And, or it is just kind of a new version of Batra. Nothing about its powers or anything really about it is all that interesting or original. It's nothing that we haven't seen before in films with giant insects as the main monster. And this film is very much like that. The Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, the first 20 minutes of the film are easily the best part of the movie. And very quickly it just devolves into a really bland Godzilla film. And that's ultimately my feelings on it. It's just really, really bland. The first 20 minutes are brilliant, but after that the film just really quickly devolves. So with those overall feelings said, let's get into the plot of Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. I already kind of outlined Godzilla's, you know, impact on this universe, so I'll just kind of outline the Megaguirus plot. Basically what happens is, our main female protagonist named Ojimori was involved in an assault on Godzilla in 1996, where Godzilla attacked Osaka and they attempted to combat him with bazookas. I wonder if that's a reference, by the way, to Godzilla vs. Biollante, because in that film Godzilla attacked Osaka and it was a bazooka crew that was trying to take him down. And that's what happens in this film. I doubt it, but it's possible. And the whole point is to take him down. And her superior officer, who was also her mentor, is killed in the military operation by Godzilla. And she swears revenge and becomes one of the head honchos at an organization called G-Graspers. By the way, the stupidest name ever. G-Grasper's entire point is to basically take down Godzilla and relinquish the world of his threat. At the same time, they are attempting to use a new weapon against Godzilla called Dimension Tide, which is basically this big gun that shoots out black holes. I know, right? So they're testing this weapon, and they fire it once on Earth, and it creates a wormhole in time after the black hole is finished firing. And the wormhole brings forth a prehistoric insect called the Meganula, which lays an egg in our time and goes back into the past. The Meganula egg hatches, and a series of different metamorphoses take place of this bug that eventually becomes Megaguirus. And a whole swarm of Meganulas is born that all form this big Megaguirus. Well, in the film it's called Megaguirus, but we're going to call it Megaguirus only because that's where I've more commonly heard it. Megaguirus floods Tokyo and begins to brood under the water. At the same time, Godzilla is beginning to surface near the coast of Japan and seems to be heading towards Tokyo. At this all leads to a big confrontation between Godzilla and Megaguirus, which, once Godzilla kills Megaguirus, goes nowhere. Godzilla invades the heart of Tokyo, and with the help of our main female lead, Ojimori, she flies an aircraft called the Griffin over Godzilla's head and has the Dimension Tide lock on to that vehicle, and she ejects, and Godzilla is of course swept up in the black hole and is seemingly defeated. And then of course our human cast is left to lament the events of the film. There is a really stupid ending to this movie where they're all like, oh, maybe Godzilla's still alive, who knows? Where our main male lead named Kudo, he's kind of a street performer with robots, and that's how Ojimori finds him at the beginning of the film and brings him in the G-Grasper. And at the end of the film, she returns to him there and says, oh, Godzilla might be still alive, we still need your help. Why? Why would you do a full circle ending like that when you know that there's going to be nothing else in this continuity? I mean, I'm sure Shizuke Kaneko was already planning GMK by the time this film was done, so why would you even bother to hint at a sequel? It's just stupid. It's really pointless fodder, and just seems to be there to give a, oh, maybe Godzilla's still alive kind of ending. To be fair, GMK has that too, but I like it better in GMK because I think it's more clever. And this film has that, but it's stupid because we know we're not going to get anything else in this continuity. And it just seems to be there because you can't kill Godzilla without there being another Godzilla to take his place. Because the universe can never not have Godzilla in it. So basically that's the point. It's just stupid and seems just to be there to give an uh-oh kind of ending. This Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is a very frustrating movie for me because, kind of like Space Godzilla, it has so many great ideas that it puts forth in the first 20 minutes, and all of them quickly devolve to bland Godzilla tropes. The big things for me are the setup of this Godzilla universe, where there was no Oxygen Destroyer, and this is the original Godzilla that we're fighting. The original Godzilla never happening. You know, the original Gojira's events happening differently. And the idea of Godzilla only attacking for the need to consume energy. It doesn't necessarily say nuclear energy, well they do, but they realize that it's not just atomic energy, but seemingly just to be there to consume energy. Cool. What do you do with it? We create an organization that's designed to kill Godzilla, they create a super weapon to kill him, and then a random monster shows up during all this that's gonna fight Godzilla. So bland, and is so similar to Space Godzilla in that there's a big plan to destroy Godzilla, or to subdue him, but the plan goes... I mean, in this one it's not as severe as Space Godzilla where the plan literally had nothing to do with the monster. At least in this film, the plan does bring the monster to life and brings it to the present. But once that conceit is over, Megaguirus really has nothing to do with the main story. He just kind of shows up, causes problems, and then has a really pointless fight with Godzilla at the end of the film. The film really tries hard to make him and Godzilla connected, and totally, unequivocally fails at it. In that Megaguirus came here because of a weapon designed to kill Godzilla. Megaguirus becomes Megaguirus because the Meganula all fed on Godzilla's energy and produced the Megaguirus. And also, Megaguirus feeds on Godzilla's energy, thus gets an atomic blast. Who the fuck cares? It didn't have to be Godzilla, it could have been Gamera, it could have been fucking Gyra, or Yungari, who knows? It didn't have to be Godzilla. And that frustrates me because, again, aside from Megaguirus, who really is the weakest link in the film, this movie has some really great ideas that Megaguirus completely ruins. The introduction of Megaguirus becomes the A story, and the Godzilla stuff becomes the B story. Kind of your typical Godzilla structure, right? It doesn't work here because the Godzilla B story is more interesting than the bland Megaguirus A story. By the way, I would be remiss not to mention at this point that Megaguirus is not an original monster. Megaguirus is slightly based on a monster that appeared in the original Rodan film. I think they were called Meganora or Meganora. They were Mega something, and they're the basis for the insects in this film. And cool, interesting. Doesn't matter though. There's nothing done with them. They're just there to give Godzilla something to fight, and a really crappy fight, let's just say. Godzilla's fight with Megaguirus is one of the most boring Godzilla fights in history. It's right up there with Space Godzilla. The fight is just so boring, it's poorly edited, and really is kind of just like Godzilla's fight with Mothra in Mothra vs. Godzilla. So, really crappy fight. And once that fight happens, Megaguirus is ultimately superfluous in the story. Once Megaguirus is destroyed, there's no impact of him. Now it's just that if the Dimension Tide is going to work against Godzilla, which it does, again, seemingly. So, Megaguirus, once you watch the last 15 minutes of this movie, you'll understand what I mean. Megaguirus is pointless in the story. What does he do? He shows up, he kills a couple of Japanese people, he feeds off the energy of Godzilla, and then he fights Godzilla and gets destroyed. Alright, then what happens? Godzilla gets eaten up by the Dimension Tide, and the movie's over with no impact by Megaguirus. It's just lazy story structure and poor story structure, and leads to a very strange film. One that doesn't feel like it has a driving force. It feels like the film is literally just kind of happening with no moving or, moving plot. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a plot in this film. It just kind of feels like a bunch of scenes that happen that are supposedly tied together. And Megaguirus is the best example of that, and is ultimately the weakest link in the film, because once we start focusing on him, we lose all that interesting Godzilla stuff. However, the Godzilla stuff itself does not get a free pass, because the Godzilla story is really fucking simple, and it can't carry a movie. The whole point is we've got this big black hole gun that could potentially kill Godzilla. The big conflict is we gotta get it to lock on and kill him. Not a great story for a 2-hour movie. Interesting idea, but it needs a story behind that with a monster, and Megaguirus is a poor choice for that because he has nothing to do with it. Yes, the black hole gun, the Dimension Tide, brings Megaguirus to the present. Then what? Nothing. Has nothing to do with it after that. So, Megaguirus is a poor choice for this film because of that. And it's ultimately really bland because I think they realize the same thing that I'm saying is a problem, that we can't just have Godzilla fighting a black hole gun. So we have to have some monster plot going on alongside that to make the black hole story work. So they come up with Megaguirus, and it just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. The plot structure is poor. And the film, it leads to the film being extremely boring, because nothing really connects, and when the film tries to connect, it totally fails at it. So the plot is really poorly put together. There are some really interesting ideas in it in the beginning, but all of them are just poorly connected and poorly structured. So the plot is just really poorly structured, and leads to a very, very clunky movie. And that's really what Megaguirus is. It's a very extremely clunky Godzilla film. But with all that said, let's start to talk about the characters. Let's start with the human cast. The human cast isn't terrible. My favorite is the female lead, Ojimori, because she kind of represents my favorite type of Godzilla human character, with a past that's deeply connected to Godzilla, and that the person who she considered her mentor was killed by Godzilla. My problem with it is that the film uses that too much, in that she's not the only character in the film who had someone important to them taken away by Godzilla. There is another female character in the film who is the kind of mentor of our main female lead, Kudo. And, is it Kujo? I don't know. I'm gonna say Kudo. and she too had a friend who was killed by Godzilla. The problem with all of this is that Ojimori's connection to this military guy is really developed, and that it's very clear that he mentored her to become a good soldier. All of a sudden, you've got this chick who had a friend killed by Godzilla. The reason why you can't just have that and expect it to work is because you have to develop the relationship. We have to understand why this guy was important to her, and no, they weren't romantically involved, or at least that's not said. If that's what it is, it's not implied or not said. And you can't just have it and expect it to work. It just cannot be done and cannot work. You have to give us a reason why the loss of that person who was taken away by Godzilla hurts our character and makes us feel for that loss of relationship. So you need to develop it. You can't simply have it and expect it to work the way you want. The only way it can work like that without you developing the relationship, and even this is lazy writing, is if it's a parent or a relative. I mean, not like cousin, but like brother, sister, dad, mom. Fine, you don't have to show it because it's kind of an implied hurt. That if Godzilla killed your mom or dad, sure, you would feel bad regardless of anything. But if it's a friend or a colleague or a mentor, you have to develop why our character cared about that person and why that person was important to our character, so that way it works and hurts when Godzilla takes that person away. You can't simply have it and expect it to work, and this film begins to do that with this chick. Ojimori is fine. They develop it all they need to. There's this one good moment in a convoy when Godzilla attacks Osaka at the beginning of the film, where this military guy looks at Ojimori and says, "Are you ready, Ojimori?" And she says, "Yes, sir," and immediately establishes the relationship. And also, what also establishes that relationship is that when Godzilla's about to knock a building down, he pushes Ojimori out of the way, and that's why he dies. All you need. That's all you fucking need. I didn't need an hour explaining their relationship. I just needed something to cement it and make me like this person who got taken away by Godzilla. You can't simply have it be the raw feeling of someone I know got killed by Godzilla. It has to be more developed than that. And if it's not, it doesn't work to the effect of, we want to see this person kill Godzilla because of what Godzilla did to them. It doesn't work, so it ultimately becomes a cliche in the Millennium series anyway, at points. I mean, in other films it's more developed. Like in GMK, it's fucking developed. This film, this chick is not developed. Ojimori's developed. This other scientist lady is not developed. And you can't just do that. So I really think that you need to develop a relationship between characters who have their relationship ruined by Godzilla. So you can't simply have it. So Ojimori is easily the most developed and interesting character because, again, the relationship is developed between her and the military guy, so we understand her pain and why her drive is to kill Godzilla. The thing with her is that she comes off as a tad bitchy at points. Like, when she's talking to Kudo, she's a little bit too hostile and a little bit too ranty and bitchy to be totally likable. But ultimately, I think she is well done. I like the ending of the film where she thinks Godzilla's dead and she lets her hair down. It's a really kind of simple moment, but one that works. The entire film, her hair has been in some sort of style to kind of look a little manly, because she's in the military, and she's been questioned on why she is, you know, in the military and fighting Godzilla if she's a chick. So you need to, it's a really simple moment where once she thinks Godzilla's dead, she lets her hair down and we see that she has beautiful long hair. So she's kind of taking down her defenses in a way. So I really, really like that. It's a really small moment and one that works to what it should. It's simple and really, really strong. Unfortunately, though, her character is not the center point of the story. The center point of the story is fucking Megaguirus. And for the second act, it's this annoying kid. Allow me to explain. There is a small Japanese child, haven't we been here before, who finds the egg of Megaguirus and takes it to Tokyo and dumps it in a sewer. For about 25 minutes, he's basically our protagonist. What the fuck? He's clearly not the protagonist, though, because he's not in the rest of the movie. He's only in this 25 minutes. Again, it just makes the movie very, very clunky. And again, it's similar to Space Godzilla in that regard. But even more so because, at least in Space Godzilla, they had set protagonists. Megaguirus does not have that. It just makes the movie very, very clunky and poorly structured. I do ultimately, the kid is not the worst Godzilla kid ever. I mean, he's up there because he's fucking annoying and extremely much so a geeky shut-in. But he's not the worst Godzilla kid ever. I think that's definitely Ichiro, but he's not as bad as Ichiro is, and he's ultimately he doesn't give me any impression. I just think he's annoying and kind of misplaced. So he's also a weak link because he feels entirely pointless. Like, why did we have to have this kid when we could have simply had an explanation of the Megaguirus egg rolls into a sewer? And that's how it develops. That's all you fucking needed. You didn't need this kid taking it to Tokyo. Just have it roll into a sewer or something. You didn't have to have this annoying kid. So he's also a weak link. So overall, the human cast is really unmemorable. They're all extremely undeveloped. Some of them are a little bit, like this one, the guy who heads G-Grasper, he's a tad developed in that he's kind of the main reason why Godzilla's returning, because he's funding this research into a new energy source called plasma energy, and that's the reason why Godzilla attacks again, is because he's going after the plasma. It's cool and makes him kind of tragic because he's also heading G-Grasper. So he's somewhat developed, but the rest of the cast is not. Kudo, not developed at all. He's just a cyber genius with an ego. The rest of the cast is like that as well. They're just not developed and rather boring and unmemorable, except for Ojimori and that head of G-Grasper. So, you know, this is the human cast overall. It's not awful, but it's extremely unmemorable, and some of the characters are very annoying. So with that said, let's get into the monsters. Again, we only have two to speak of. I'm not going to talk about the various forms of Megaguirus because I just want to talk about the big one. Megaguirus is extremely bland and uninteresting. Megaguirus is just one of the most dull Godzilla monsters I have ever encountered. He looks like Batra, and he has a really stereotypical insect life cycle that doesn't make him in any way interesting. He's just a boring giant bug. What's so interesting about that and makes him worthy of fighting Godzilla? He has a decent design, but again, he looks too much like Batra, and overall is just a really bland monster. Has an extremely uninteresting origin, an extremely uninteresting life cycle, and overall makes the movie bland and uninteresting. So, really do not like Megaguirus. His fight with Godzilla cements him as unintegral to the plot, in that he just kind of shows up, fights Godzilla, dies, and then is never spoken of again. So, yeah, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus in one scene and is not integral to the plot, so definitely that. I really hate Megaguirus. Just really bland. Is kind of a cross between Batra and the original Megaguirus from Rodan. So, really bland and uninteresting and very stereotypical monster. And his fight with Godzilla cements his lack of integralness to the story. So let's talk about Godzilla. I don't have a lot to say about him because he has very little screen time. My problem with Godzilla in this film is that he has zero characterization. Let me explain. He's extremely animalistic, and I don't like that because Godzilla is not an animalistic monster. He never was and shouldn't be. The whole point of Godzilla is that man turned him into a monster with the human emotion of revenge and hatred. So when you make him an animalistic beast simply going after sustenance in the form of energy, you really take away some of those characteristics, and it makes him less interesting than other versions. I resist that, and it makes Godzilla extremely uninteresting in this film. And it doesn't help that he barely has any screen time, and only appears on screen for once very long, which is his fight with Megaguirus. I really don't like Godzilla in this film. He has very, very little screen time and has very, very little impact on the viewer, so really do not like Godzilla in this film. I mean, he's Godzilla. I mean, he's still a badass, but I don't like him in this movie. He's too animalistic, and he's not on screen enough to really have a distinct characterization. So, Godzilla is extremely, extremely animalistic, and I don't like that. So, really do not like Godzilla in this film. So let's go to the effects, shall we? The effects are quite good. My problem with them is that, they're very, very rushed. The suits look like suits, which they did not in Godzilla 2000. I mean, the Godzilla suit in this looks like a suit, and I think the problem with it is lighting. Just the way this suit is shot, it's shot very, very plainly, and you don't do that with a Godzilla suit. I mean, didn't these people even watch the original Godzilla series and the Heisei series? You have to shoot the suit in a specific way, so you do not shoot it straight forward. That is not what you do when you're doing suitimation. You have to do it kind of finagle-ish to mask the phoniness of it in a way. If you shoot it very straightforward, they're going to look like guys in suits, and this film cements that for me. In that the suits are shot very plainly, and in the most part during the daytime, and because of that they look very, very unconvincing. My other problem with the effects is that the editing in this film is awful, especially in the last fight scene. When Godzilla fights Megaguirus, there's this weird slow-mo filter they use at points that is really, really clunky and seems to be there for no reason. Like, we'll get a perspective shot of Megaguirus, and the screen will just go really, really kind of glitchy for a minute, zoom in on Godzilla, zoom out, it'll just be a very slow-mo kind of thing and strange. The shot where Godzilla bites Megaguirus' tail, what? It's so strangely edited. Godzilla bites on the tail, and there's this weird 360 shot where we go to the front of his head and he bites off the tail. Weird. And ultimately, just fucking bizarre and poorly edited and strange, and is very, very off-putting. It also makes the end fight very, very unfun to watch, because it's just so poorly edited that you can't enjoy the monsters beating the hell out of each other or the epicness of the fight. Because it's so poorly edited and so plainly shot that it's just boring. It's up there with the Space Godzilla fight in terms of boring Godzilla fights, so I really do not like the effects in this film. The overuse of CGI is even worse in this movie than it was in Godzilla 2000. Like, remember how I said in the previous review how there's a shot where Godzilla's underwater where it looks like it came from Godzilla Save the Earth? Even worse in this film. I mean, it doesn't even look like the Godzilla suit. Like, there's this shot where Godzilla gets hit with missiles underwater, and it's clearly CGI, but not only is it clearly CGI, but it looks like video game graphics. Like, it looks like that's the Godzilla from Godzilla Save the Earth. So, really crappy CGI, really unconvincing, and really doesn't mesh well with the suitimation. So the effects in this film are quite poorly done. All the stuff with the Meganula and the insects is quite well done, like all the life cycle stuff is great. But, again, just overall the effects in this film are quite rushed and poorly done. Like the shot where it's a bunch of soldiers shooting at the Meganulas on a building, so clunky because there's no music. And it's just these unconvincing flashbangs going off while they're shooting at CGI bugs. It's just clunky. So the effects in this film are really not that well done. They're extremely clunky, poorly edited, and overall just rushed and not shot properly. So I really do not like the effects in this film. So the last thing I want to talk about before we give this film a rating is the music score. Now, this music score comes off as a blueprint for me for what's going to be done in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. And I do ultimately really like this score. It's just, I mean, at points it's absolutely brilliant. Like, Godzilla's new theme, fantastic. The Dimension Tides theme, while I think it's overplayed, I also really like it. It's overall a very booming and melodic score, and one filled with epic cues, like the Dimension Tide score, Godzilla's theme, and the Griffin's theme, you know, the flying vehicle. By the way, major Super X ripoff, by the way. But it has a decent theme song. So overall, the music is quite good. Just not as good as when it's going to be done again in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Because it's much more well done in that film, and I like the score better. So overall, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus has some really interesting ideas with not being in continuity with the original Gojira, reshooting those scenes, and also being a universe where Godzilla never died, and a universe where Godzilla had a major impact on the energy race of history. So I really like that. It's just not well done. It's not well integrated into the story. Well, it is, but what I mean is everything doesn't connect in this film. The plot is extremely clunky and poorly structured. The pace is boring and clunky, and nothing feels like it's connected. Megaguirus is bland and uninteresting. And the last fight, so crappy, so boring, so poorly edited. One of the worst Godzilla fights. So overall, I really don't like this movie. It's one of my least favorite. I don't watch it very often. And not only do I not watch it very often, but it's just not very good. So I really don't like this movie, and I'm going to give it the same score I gave Space Godzilla. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Some really interesting ideas. They're not well executed, and ultimately the story is extremely clunky and poorly structured. So I really don't recommend it. Watch the first 20 minutes and then stop watching it, because that's the best part of the movie and the most interesting. So I say watch the first 20 minutes and then stop watching the film, because the first 20 minutes are brilliant. The rest of the film is poorly structured and bland. So I do not recommend Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Watch the first 20 minutes online. I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere for free. Don't buy the DVD. So I ultimately don't recommend it. I think it's bland, and just don't watch it. It's just a bland and uninteresting and poorly structured Godzilla film. So 2 out of 5 for me. So that'll about do it for this review of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. And join me tomorrow, oh boy, tomorrow, when we get into one of the most heralded and loved Godzilla films of the Millennium series and of the overall franchise, when we get into Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. I'll see you guys tomorrow for that review. Sayonara.